Judge Dredd in the Worlds of 2000 AD is a standalone tabletop RPG by EN Publishing. It was published in 2019 after a successful Kickstarter. Just as a little background here, the Worlds of 2000 AD in the title refers to a comic anthology that started in 1977 called 2000 AD. The comic introduced a ton of different settings spanning numerous wacky cross-genre concepts. The most famous of these settings is the world of Judge Dredd, which this core rulebook centers on entirely. The book briefly teases 19 other settings, or worlds of 2000 AD, each of them pretty strange and unique, but all with a dark and gritty undertone. They may or may not all become RPG settings of their own. The book itself is an impressively laid out 270-page tome that doubles as an exhaustive sourcebook for everything you really ever wanted to know about the Judge Dredd universe. It uses the What's Old is New, or WOIN, system for its game mechanics and character creation. The setting is Mega City 1, but don't be fooled, Mega City 1 is not really a city. It's the entire eastern seaboard of the former United States, converted into an impossibly unbroken sprawl of urban blight, home to 800 million souls. If you've read the comics or seen either of the Dredd movies, you'll know that Mega City 1 is a crime-ridden hellhole. As the story goes, due to the insane crime levels, the government introduces the Judge program, in which highly trained officers act as judge, jury, and executioner all in one. The book offers a lot of background into the history of Mega City 1 and describes 37 different locations or location types that can be used in a game. It also touches on a few places outside of the city, such as the Cursed Earth, which warrants its own supplement. If you want to go all in on the setting, this book lets you do it. The glossary of Mega City 1 slang is 3 pages long, and the sentences for 35 different crimes are listed. Let's jump into how to roll up a character. 1. Start with 3 in most of your 8 core attributes. The attributes are strength, agility, endurance, intuition, logic, willpower, charisma, luck, reputation, and psionics. You start with 0 in psionics and reputation. This game can get a bit gonzo, so your attributes will actually range from 1 all the way up to 35. 2. Choose a species. In the world of Judge Dredd, you can be a human, a clone grown in a tank, a mutant born of the atomic wars, and don't forget to roll on the mutations table, a robot, or an uplifted chimp, gorilla, or orangutan. This choice of species will confer your general size, some attribute bonuses, 3 skills, which level up independently by spending XP, and the species exploits. Exploits in this game are like special innate traits. 3. Come up with a broad statement for the character. This descriptor sentence is built in the top of the character sheet as a quick sort of summary. 4. Choose 5 so-called careers. Careers, as they're called in this game, are not lifelong affairs, but rather stints in an overall career. This is by far the most complex part of character creation, since there are dozens and dozens of careers to choose from, divided into civilian, perp or criminal, and judge categories. Even though there are heaps of careers to choose from, each of them still does seem very well thought out. They each come with a random number of years, attribute bonus, more skills, and more exploits to pile onto your character sheet. It's worth noting that the judge careers are methodically organized. In the judge track alone, there are 31 careers in total, which should give you an idea of how Judge Dredd-tastic this book is. 5. Pick a couple of universal exploits. You get to have aim or feint plus one of 67 other mostly combat or survival related exploits that each have a short description. 6. Take stock of your highest or lowest attribute at this point and choose a trait from a list of 37. Each trait adds a unique, advantageous game mechanic for your character. 7. Calculate your derived statistics: health, speed, jump, carry, initiative, defense, starting money, and attacks, of which you get an unarmed plus 1 or 2 weapon attacks. If you happen to have psionics, there are 44 powers to choose from, divided into 8 very cool sounding categories. 8. Calculate your age. This has some bearing on your character's performance. 9. Equip yourself. This game uses the kitchen sink approach to equipment, which goes hand in hand with attention to costs and character salaries. I personally don't go for this level of detail, especially in a balls-to-wall comic book setting. Descriptions for most of the equipment are fun, but hardly necessary in terms of their length. In the end, you should have a trait, a hook, 2 universal exploits, 5 career exploits, 10 skill ranks from careers and 3 from your species, and about 44 attribute points spread across your core stats. The Woin system that this game uses is a d6 dice pool system. At its core, you make checks against a target number by adding the dice pool of the relevant attribute plus the dice pool of the relevant skill, if applicable, plus or minus any equipment or situational bonuses or penalties. You take that dice pool and you throw that number of dice, add them up, and see if they meet or exceed the target. There is a very important table in the book that establishes benchmark target numbers. This gives you an idea of the kinds of sums you're aiming to beat when you throw those d6s. There are many pages which then expand on the concept. A critical success is when you roll triple sixes. Opposed checks will pit dice pools against one another. Extended tasks like scanning or research require a series of successful rolls, and chases are handled like an opposed extended task using skills like piloting or driving. One particularly fun mechanic in the game is the countdown. A dice pool of any size is rolled every round, and each time a 6 is rolled, that die is removed from the pool. The countdown expires when all the dice are gone. This timer can be sped up by removing 5s and 6s, or even 4s, 5s, and 6s. Combat rules start off pretty simple, with everyone rolling initiative and then getting 2 actions per turn. Melee attacks use a strength or agility attribute, player's choice, against the target's melee defense, while ranged attacks use agility or intelligence against a target's ranged defense. On a hit, the attacker rolls d6s according to the weapon's damage rating, and that damage is reduced by the target armor's soak value. But things can get a lot more complex. There are called shots, aiming and feinting rules, overwatch, suppressive fire, rules for cover, being pinned, and flanking targets. There are 10 different types of damage, as well as a couple dozen conditions that each have specific mechanics attached to them. The book includes some solid advice on how to structure a Judge Dredd adventure, as well as a crime blotter section with 5 nicely written little one-shots, each described from either a civilian, perp, or judge perspective. And finally, there is a full starter scenario that lays out a much more detailed series of encounters, again with options for civilian, perp, or judge players. This scenario includes all the encounter maps as well. If you're a Judge Dredd fan, this book acts as a sort of Bible for the setting, even if you have no intention of playing the game. Just reading through the list of judge careers, for example, paints such a vibrant picture of the Dredd universe. And the enemy section is a great little rogues gallery of the horribles of Mega City 1. But the book is not without some issues. Here are my personal feelings on the negative aspects of this book. The kitchen sink approach to equipment, diseases, conditions, and a dozen other things makes the game hard to absorb and ultimately run. The character creation requires a lot of back and forth across a ton of pages to sort out the final point tallies. And higher level dice pools being 11 or 12 dice introduces a truly unwieldy amount of dice and can be a real hindrance for fast, fluid play. But here's what I love about this book. All the tables are repeated at the end of the book in an appendix. You don't see that enough in games. The comic book style, art, and layout is professionally done and makes the massive information load quite readable by breaking it up artfully. And as I mentioned, this is a comprehensive, definitive one-stop shop for the world of Judge Dredd and Mega City 1. It's one of those books that doubles as a fully functioning RPG and a fun sourcebook read. But that's just my 2 cents. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Links for the stuff are down below. Thanks for watching. This is Dave signing off. See ya.